Tom sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the reflection in the darkened mirror across from him. The fluorescent light flickered softly, casting a dull glow on the room that felt more like an afterthought than a sanctuary. At 32 years old, Tom found himself trapped in a labyrinth of unfulfilled expectations and silent discontent. His life, at first glance, was what many would consider enviable: a stable job as an engineer, a tidy home in the suburbs, and a wife, Sarah, who had once made his heart race with excitement. Yet, the ordinary facade belied a growing chasm between them, a coldness that wrapped around him like the winter air creeping through their home. Every evening, when Tom returned from the office, he anticipated a warm greeting or even just a nod of recognition. Instead, he was met with the unwavering attention of Sarah's phone, her face illuminated by its blue light as if it contained all the warmth she had forgotten to offer him. He often felt like a ghost in his own life, drifting through days filled with polite exchanges but devoid of genuine connection. "Not now, Tom. I'm busy," she would respond, dismissing him like an errant thought, as if his feelings were unworthy of her time. The silence grew oppressive, pressing down on him until he could scarcely breathe. It was not the loud arguments or harsh words that troubled him, rather, it was the absence of care, the steady erosion of their once vibrant relationship. Tom realized one day, while staring into the lifeless eyes of his reflection, that he had allowed this to happen. "I can't keep living like this," he muttered to himself, the tremor in his voice a revelation of buried pain. "If I want to be happy, I have to change, for myself, not for Sarah." He embarked on a journey to reclaim his self-worth. Tom took pride in small changes. He traded his baggy clothes for fitted shirts, resumed jogging in the early morning light, and picked up his old camera, which had been gathering dust in the corner since their marriage began. Each click of the shutter became a piece of his reclaimed identity, capturing fleeting moments of beauty that reminded him of who he was beyond the walls of their shared home. At work, his colleagues noticed the shift in his demeanor. He began voicing ideas that had once remained bottled up inside him, creating waves of inspiration that rippled through meetings. Within weeks, Tom transformed into someone he barely recognized, a man of action, grounded by self-respect and confidence. His laughter rang clearer, and he engaged more deeply with those around him, radiating an energy that had long been dormant. Meanwhile, Sarah started noticing the changes, her attention slowly pulling away from her screen as she sought the man she had nearly lost. One cool autumn evening, Tom nestled comfortably on the couch, thumbing through a book about photography techniques. The room was quiet, the only sounds the gentle rustle of pages turning and the ticking clock measuring the passage of time. Sarah hesitated before sitting beside him, an uncertainty lacing her movements. "Tom, do you want to talk?" she asked softly, her voice trembling as if testing the water. Tom looked up, calm yet resolute. "Depends. What do you want to talk about?" Her eyes flitted away, searching for thoughts she hadn't yet articulated. "I've noticed you've been different lately. I'd like to spend more time with you, like we used to." A smile tugged at the corners of Tom's mouth, but it wasn't the warm welcome she had hoped for. It was measured, a hard-earned recognition of his own worth. "Sarah. I'm not the man you can ignore and then seek out when it's convenient. I've learned to respect myself and not wait for attention from someone who doesn't give it freely." She fell silent, lowering her gaze. A mixture of surprise and regret flickered across her face. "I didn't realize. I had neglected you so much." "And I can't change the past," Tom replied, his voice steady. "I can only live the present, and live well, with people who respect and appreciate me." With that, he returned to his book, a thin wall of tranquility surrounding him. The atmosphere in the room shifted, the silence no longer felt suffocating but instead echoed with a newfound strength. Sarah remained still beside him, contemplating the implications of his words while wrestling with the realization that some opportunities slip away forever. As weeks passed, Tom continued to immerse himself in life, discovering the freedom that bloomed from no longer seeking validation from someone unequipped to return his affection. He spent weekends exploring nature with his camera, capturing sunsets that mirrored his emerging inner light. He joined a community photography class, where conversations flowed freely and laughter was a daily currency. Sarah, on the other hand, faced the painful truth of her unintended neglect. She had taken his presence for granted, and now, as she watched him thrive independently, she felt the sting of her choices. With every joyful moment Tom shared with others, she understood that affection needed nurturing, and it couldn't be demanded at the last minute. One afternoon, as Tom returned from a particularly rewarding outing, he spotted Sarah sitting on the porch, her expression contemplative. This time, he greeted her with a genuine smile, one that recognized her attempts without binding him back into a cycle of old habits. "Hey, how was your day?" he asked, setting down his bag and soaking in the serene atmosphere. "It was, okay," she admitted, her tone low. "I've been thinking a lot about us." Tom nodded, grateful for the openness but wary of returning to the shadows. "What have you come to realize?" "I've realized I've taken you for granted, Tom. I wanted to apologize for not being there for you. I see how happy you are, and it makes me feel like I missed something wonderful." "That's true," he replied, sincerity warming his words. "But I've also learned something important. Happiness must come from within, not from someone else's acknowledgement." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow over them. In that moment, Tom felt a serene sense of belonging, not necessarily to Sarah, but to himself. He had embraced the beauty of independence, of self-love, and of realizing that life is too precious to be lived unnoticed. Sarah sat quietly, absorbing his words, knowing that the road ahead would require effort and growth. Though their paths had diverged, perhaps there was still hope for understanding, for healing. In reclaiming his life, Tom had unwittingly rekindled a spark within Sarah, one that had laid dormant beneath layers of routine and distraction. As they sat in the fading light, both understood that some relationships could evolve, given the courage to confront the past and the willingness to embrace a future where true connection could flourish, one respectful and reciprocal. And as the last glimmers of daylight faded, they both realized, sometimes, the most profound changes come not from attempting to fix what's broken, but from finding solace in the reflections of oneself.